The next topic about thinking and cognition is language, which is a communication system that involves words and systematic rules to organize those words in order to transmit information from one individual to another. And first, when learning about language, we need to understand the basic components of language. The first component we need to understand about language is actually knowing what language we're hearing or speaking, which is the lexicon. And the lexicon are words and vocabulary we use in any given language. So for example, if we are understanding Spanish, we need to understand the words and the vocabulary of Spanish. Next, we need to understand the grammar of the language, which is the set of rules that are used to convey meaning through the lexicon. And these include verbs, nouns, or adjectives. And then we have phonemes and morphemes. A phoneme is a basic unit of sound, and a morpheme is the smallest unit of a spoken language. For example, a phoneme is like ah, o, or e, whereas morphemes are more like nouns such as cat, or boy, or run. Then we need to understand the sematics, which is the process in which we derive meaning from morphemes and words. This is where cognition and thinking come into play, where we need to understand the meaning of these words. And then we have syntax, which is the way words are organized into sentences. And then these are the basic components of language. Next, we can talk about language development. So these are the stages of language development. In the first stage, between 0 and 3 months, occurs reflexive communication, and this is like cooing and babbling. In the second stage, between 3 and 8 months, there's reflexive communication as well, but there's an interest in others. So these might be syllables or consonant sounds, maybe signaling a ga or ba in order to interest others. And then stage 3 is between 8 and 13 months, and this is intentional communication in which a person is trying to be sociable. And this includes conversational babbling, like ga, ga, ga. And then stage 4, between 12 and 18 months, is when the first words develop. This could be dada, or kitty, or cookie. And then stage 5, between 18 and 24 months, is when simple sentences of 2 words are formed. So maybe saying eat cookie. And in stage 6, between 2 and 3 years old, sentences of 3 or more words are formed, such as more juice please. And then in the last stage, where you develop language between 3 and 5 years old, is when complex sentences and conversations start, such as, can I have more juice please? And psychologists have been investigating the question of whether language shapes thoughts and actions, or whether our thoughts and beliefs shape our language. And also, how do different cultures and different languages influence the differences in how we think? Some researchers propose that language determines thought, and that language may indeed influence the way we think, and this is known as linguistic determinism. For example, English speakers tend to think of time more linear, going forward or running behind schedule, whereas Mandarin speakers may also refer to time as going up or down, which is a different way of thinking. And it's instances like this where different languages can influence the way people can think differently. But also, the way a person thinks can influence the way they speak. If someone has a cognitive structure to think like an American who values individualism, then their language might reflect that value and that thought. But if someone who is from Asia who values more community, then their language might reflect the community as opposed to the individual. And so it's not really known whether language influences thought or vice versa, but it can be both.